I grew up in an environment where churches just worked with schools. I lived in a military family, so everywhere we moved, the three pillars of our communities were the church, the school, and the library. And as long as you had those three things, and if those three things were operating strong, the community was strong. And so when we planted an A-Leaf, I would go to the school board meetings and I would say, "I'm here!" And then there'd be crickets in the room, okay? And I learned that there were, unfortunately, the church-school partnership was not strong there. And so we were just praying as a church, man, how do we get this started? And it was about that time that Loving Houston had sent out emails, or somehow they communicated through the Union Baptist Association that they were having their first meeting at the Union Baptist Association, and I attended and immediately caught the vision of how to do this. We started with a school that was directly across the street, and I asked the principal there, who is no longer there, I'd like to just give me the top 13 kids who get written up the most. Don't do that. I did not know what I was asking for. I just was saying, I'll do it. And so let me give you for free what I paid for, right? And so I got this classroom, and the teacher was like, "Here, take them," and I did that. And so I had this class, and it actually taught me a lot. But the things that God did during that 2-year stint I had with those 13 kids was I learned that even though we would call them incorrigible, they're still kids, and they're still children. In that classroom was a mass shooter that we stopped. In that classroom was a kid that was 1 day away from committing suicide that we stopped. In that classroom was a girl that was cutting herself and had been cutting herself so long she had keloids all over her arms and legs, and we were able to stop that. In that classroom was a kid that was getting bullied and was about to kill his bully. That wasn't a mass shooter, but he was still about to go from a bullier to a murderer. I mean, a bullied person to a murderer. And we were able to stop that. In that room was a young lady who was deciding that she was going to enter prostitution because her mom was a prostitute and had what she called a good life. And so we were able to intervene there. And I still keep track of not all, but most of these kids, and they're doing really well. What it has evolved to now is doing a lot of work with homeless children in our district. We work in A-Leaf ISD, and there's a large demographic of our school district that's dealing with homelessness. And so we have dedicated a lot of our energy and time into addressing the direct needs of the homeless children. When you see these kids on the street, these are middle school kids and high school kids. 9 times out of 10, they're homeless. Their parents have been incarcerated, leaving them homeless, or their parents have literally dropped them off at a school and leave, which happens more times than you think. And so we dedicated to that. And so we've been doing a lot of work into that. And it all started from the Loving Houston meeting that we first went to. And so we've seen God do a lot of great things. You know, the reading to kids, the tutoring, all of that is necessary. I think that if you're going to effectively partner with the school, do so in a way where your heart is leading, and find a way that it matches what the school needs. And that's where we found was effective. In my demographic and in our district, we found that the incorrigible kids were the ones being left behind the most. And so it just happened to match where my heart was, and it just connected and it worked. So find where that is in your atmosphere, and you'll see the great works of God in your demographic. Just like we heard here, you'll see the great works of God. When it connects with what the needs are in your heart, God will just show up.